Macy's was a recent Oath Brand Blazer winner due to their ability to put consumers first, lead with innovation, and truly use digital to drive their omni-channel goals. We're a very proud partnership. We were laughing, this feels like our wedding with this aisle down the road. So we'll interlock at the end of this and walk out together. And I would love to just kick it off with a quick case study of a video. Welcome Karthik, Vish to the stage. You want to switch sides? We talked about which side is better. Before we jump in, I thought it would be great if you could just take a quick minute to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So as Kathy and Sarah mentioned, my name is Karthik. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be here in this beautiful city. Thank you both to the Ad Club and Oath for having me, and also to Hill Holiday for hosting us in this amazing view. I walked in and I was like, how do these guys work here? It's just amazing. Little quick blurb about myself. I work for Macy's. I head up what's called search media, so responsible for paid, organic, and content syndication across both online and in store, and so really privileged about that opportunity. And in my past lives, had the distinct honor of actually leading teams in marketing, e-commerce strategy, and if you really go back in my career, you go to technology and data as well. So, and at a personal level, aside from keeping my kids out of the ER, really passionate about giving back to the community, involved with the YMCA, back in SF, and also just, recreation sports.
Awesome. One quick fun fact. Have you made a holiday list, and what's on the top?
Have not made a holiday list, although I will say I've received my first Thanksgiving ideas from Yahoo the other day.
Oh, good.
It's way too early. Who is curating the content? You got to think through that. But no, it was funny that you mentioned it, and there was hey, have you thought about the 10 ideas for Thanksgiving? So not thought about it yet, but around the corner.
Yeah, you're coming in Halloween. You will be thinking about it very soon.
Coming in Halloween for sure. Halloween, of course, is figuring out what the kids are going to wear. I typically go as myself. I'm scary enough as I go, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so to kick it back to the Brand Blazer Award, again, we have a great partnership with you. When it comes to retail, you and I talk about this a lot. We talk about it as a retail community, but really thinking about personalization, utility for the consumers, and driving that connection as best as you can. Can you speak a little bit about how personalization played a role in some of the success that we shared?
Absolutely. I mean, if you anecdotally look at how personalization has evolved, there are a lot of stats out there. They say customers, are 75% more attuned to shopping with a brand or making a purchase if there's a level of personalization. There are numbers out there in terms of, it improves marketing effectiveness or profitability by 15 to 30% in many cases. The trouble with personalization that I personally see is there is a fine line between customization and personalization. There are a lot of sites out there that take a lot of feedback from you. They curate the experience. But again, what is customizable and what is really personalized to you is very different. Personalization to me is being able to access things that I didn't even know existed. I wasn't even aware of in my implicit working lifestyle, right? Which is where I think what the partnership we had with Oath was so powerful, because using mobile as the backbone and allowing the customers to kind of seamlessly go through online and in store was very easy for us to kind of curate. We honestly we didn't really look at it as digital KPIs versus online or offline KPIs. We looked at what is right for the customer, and we all agreed within our four walls that an omni-channel customer is a lot more profitable, and that's really the way we should look forward. And even aside from the KPIs and the sales and the traffic, what is right for the customer? I mean, one of the biggest taglines we have in Macy's is you want to make life shine brighter for everybody. So it's more about the community. We honestly believe in making sure that the customers and the community benefit from our products and services. And if that happens, we'll be okay as a business. So mobile played a big part. Omni-channel was a big theme right there. We have spent a lot of time working with our great partners at Oath and Sarah's team to really figure out how do we go after localized radius targeting type strategies that allows us to extract additional profitable markets and customers to really target, but also gets us to that data-driven concept that was shown on screen, where you're not throwing the same message or content to everybody. It's actually a lot more curated and personal.
And when you think about some of the ad units we saw as well, they're native to the environment that they're surrounding, as well as the mobile device that they're on. How does native work for you and work for Macy's?
I'll be honest, I think when native was first introduced to me, what was it, 3 years ago, it was tough to decide if it really was a search unit or it was really branded content, where did it really sit, and where we've seen that evolution really happen, and it's been great. It's allowed us to empower the customers to discover stuff while they continue to consume content within yahoo.com, which is still one of the highest traffic sites in the world. And it's allowed us to key off interest and key off the rich audience data that we have, largely from mobile, and really kind of feed that into the so-called news stream that Yahoo has. And so it allows us with a way of talking to the customer without her even knowing about it. And some of the different variations of the ad type we have allows us to kind of put products out there, allows us to put even videos in certain cases, I believe. So it's really kind of matured to an ad unit that allows for discovery and commerce and performance. But I do think it is so flexible. I feel that it can be used for a multiple variety of uses. But we have taken that a step further and really started using that as a performance entity.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think native overall is truly a full funnel media strategy or tactic, however you want to look at it. And specifically, it's interesting that Macy's leverages it in a performance lens. Do you see the connection between native and search and tying the proof points together of them working hand in hand?
I do. I mean, the analogy I use is when you look at paid performance or search or paid search, it's really as complicated, if not more complicated, than Wall Street, right? Because at least at Wall Street, you know what stock price is and what you're paying for the shares you're buying. With paid search, you don't even know that. The price I pay for you is very different to what I would pay for Kathy, because their propensity to buy and their interest is very different. If you really take it down to internal profitability, it completely changes by device, by geo, by affluency, and all of those things. So what native has allowed us to do is kind of become a natural extension of what we would do on the search page, and kind of go to where the customer is searching, which is what, again, going back to personalization and really being part of the customer's journey is very important to us.
Yep, great to hear. So as some of just to end a little bit on the Brand Blazers Award and the work that we've done together, some of the success story did come from test budgets, agile budgets. I'm a huge believer, overseeing the retail vertical, nationwide, that retailers have got to get with the program on carving out agile budgets, having test budgets, being okay to be able to go there to really learn and learn more. And it's okay to fail a little bit, but then we'll continue to learn together as partners. How, I think I've heard a lot in the industry, though I just can't get those approved. How internally at Macy's, how do you think of test budgets and agile budgets?
mean, Macy's is large enough where I don't think I can speak for the larger
Yep.
organization, but I can definitely speak to how we look at it within the search media team. And we don't look at it as a separate responsibility or its own org. We honestly believe it should be a cultural part of any marketing organization. Excuse me. And if you look at how marketing really sits in the larger organization build, it really owns the life cycle of a customer end to end. So if the marketing organization is doing its job, it's funneling in a lot of customer insights, a lot of trend information, a lot of futuristic data and thought leadership from a customer lens into the organization, which can then be consumed by the product teams or the technology teams or the digital online teams to really change the user experience and product portfolio in a more meaningful manner. So if you keep that lens into it, I think it really comes down to putting the value proposition as a marketing unit in terms of saying, yes, we have an absolute need to make sure we make the week, make the quarter, make the season. And as our leadership team it talks about this, you kind of have to walk and chew gum at the same time. So how do you really plant the seeds for the future growth? How do you sustain this momentum? You spoke about a very, comping and very aggressive Q4 from last year. Absolutely right. But now how do we plant it for 2019? Yeah. And that's really where innovation comes in. It's within the amount of changes that are happening in the consumer side of things. And then there is competitive forces. And then there is the publisher changes that happen, right? Not blaming you for it, but changes that happen. It's just, I think it's ever important, or more so important than ever before, to kind of keep testing and learning. And again, it's not a one answer fitting everybody's results, but I would say what helps is identifying the problem you're trying to solve for and finding a partner, finding a solution that addresses that need, putting a clear cap on what you want to test into, what success looks like, and then going from there. And I really feel that when you think through it end to end with a clear purpose and a clear objective, I think it makes conversations very easy. Because when you don't have a starting point, every answer is the right answer, and you just spin your wheels on it.
Yeah. And when you spoke about innovation a bit just now, how do you look at innovation being in more of a performance, lower funnel team? I think it's fascinating and interesting that you lean in there, and I think that truly helps to get to your omni-channel goals. But what does it mean to you when you're looking at KPIs?
Well, I guess what it means to me personally is when you're looking at year-over-year growth, right? Let's just say you made X number of dollars last year or last Q4, as you said. If you just allow inflation and customer attrition to take its effect, you're going to automatically make 10% less than what you did last time, right? So all of a sudden, if you tack on a 10-15% growth that you want, that delta, including the 10% you just lost through attrition and inflation, has to be factored in somewhere. By doing the exact same thing that you did last year, you're not going to incrementally get something. So that delta has to be solved for by some level of innovation. And innovation is in multiple facets. It doesn't have to be the Google X, SpaceX type level of investment. It can be even automation. It can be intelligence. It can be data getting looked at in a different way. It may be as simple as moving away from, text messaging to a Slack entity. It could be anything. But you need to look at that in terms of, traffic, sales, productivity on a team level, and also really figuring out how is your customer base changing year over year. And to me, it all comes down to the customer. If you brought in X number of people last time and they converted this way in your funnel, how big does the funnel need to be next time for you to kind of solve for this growth that you have? And it gets complicated because you have a device to worry about, you have ad types, you have publishers, you have geos, you have audience and demographics. And then you have your internal metrics. You have products you need to sell. You have categories that you got to market, and you have all of these things that really start convoluting it in a lot of cases. So it's really looking at it and assessing again what is the most important thing that you want to solve for, and going from there.
To pivot a little bit, so at Oath, we believe that winning that shoppable moment is truly what we call, it's an art and science, right? And the combination of premium content, unique data, all at scale is what we call brand advertising intelligence. When you think of the science part of it, how important is audience segmentation to Macy's as you're building out your lower funnel strategy?
To segue from what I said before, I mean, again, if you put the customer honestly at the center of all your decisions, which I'm sure a lot of the brands and the companies who are here, including agencies, put that as their focus. What that means as marketeers or people in the marketing realm or retail is that you're going to get a lot of data, right? And there are buzzwords out there in terms of big data, and we need to really kind of put things in the cloud and the data lake. All that really means is that your source of information on the customer is not coming from one point. Every single time a customer turns on their mobile phone, you're getting a rich amount of data about them, and you got to do something intelligent with it. But quite honestly, there's so much data, it's very hard to decipher what is noise and what is really relevant, which is really where automation and understanding a higher degree of data fluency is very important, right? And so when I really feel like the backbone of marketing and all things retail is going to be hinging on the fact that we can move faster and be more agile, but that's got to be based on a customer data set.
Yeah.
And where business strategy and insights and business acumen is going to be the differentiator is that you know and hopefully you can say what is going well and what's going bad, and you can address them appropriately. And hopefully understand what are the areas you want to solve for moving forward.
Yeah, I think as we work as partners, that's what we're constantly doing is what's working, what's not, and why is it not working. And then I guess on the art side of it, how do you think of it from a creative messaging perspective? I know you've through some of the creative that we showed you today, but even through Native, I mean, Native is such an incredible platform to have that personalized creative message. What kind of strategy around that helps when you are molding together art and science?
So to complement the data side of things, you definitely don't want to be a brand that is constantly looking for the next transaction. You want to have customers out there who rank very high on NPS scores, who are brand ambassadors for you. I remember I was talking to somebody and I was asking, he was a CMO, and I asked him, what is the most important question someone's asked you? And he said, somebody asked him what the company's NPS score was and what are the top 3 reasons people were detractors, right? So as a marketing organization, as an executive of any large brand, you need to be at any point in time understanding of why a customer should or should not engage with you. And the customer has so many different choices, so many ways of consuming content, and it's just not retail. It could be things like Netflix, it could be anything that they look at in terms of their overall lifestyle. That is in essence what you're competing with. I honestly don't believe that as retail, as Macy's, or for any brand, you're competing with people just in your vertical. It's across verticals, right? So keeping a clear eye on that, giving the customer a reason to engage with you. And it's sometimes very implicit. It's more about experience than the next sale. It's more about a value add rather than something that is just a coupon or 80% off somewhere, right? So really looking at that is important because you want people to continue to engage with you. And truth be told, that word of mouth advertising still exists, right? And it's just a lot more nuanced when it comes to like social media and Twitter and Facebook and all of those stuff. So keeping that sentiment is going to be, or protecting that sentiment is going to be very important.
So protecting the sentiment, keeping the engagement, not easy during holiday season. It's a busy time for people. There's a lot of sales, and as I mentioned before, with people starting earlier, even in terms of gifting and buying those gifts. How does that concept of some people even starting in Halloween? You've got Black Friday. You've got Green Monday, last shipping day. How does all of that influence your overall holiday strategy?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We, specifically speaking for Macy's, I think we obviously have a clear promotional calendar that we kind of focus on. So there are very important days that we really tough to win. We try to win in with clear market share and making sure we speak to the right customer at the right time. All the P's of marketing that everybody's aware of. My honest personal opinion about how people are starting to engage a lot sooner is that it's just the reality of it. As creatures of habit, we want to make sure that we are ahead of the curve in terms of being knowledgeable so that we can talk more intelligently with our friends and being advisors where we need to be so that we can give advice to people. So I think it's a social need for us to know. It doesn't translate very well to business plans because a lot of the people in the room probably have very contracted attribution windows, and because we run our entire lives based on attribution models, just because somebody researched in Halloween, but if they bought something in the heart of Black Friday, we can't really associate that easily. So looking at the customer funnel in its entirety, looking at the branding side of it, looking at understanding where product discovery falls in and where the sales portion falls in, and which channels really sit in those realms is going to be very important. So that way you can set KPIs more intelligently. Hopefully there is some version of an MTA or an MMM that you guys have or work with that can give you some directional context of what the overall lift is. There isn't a really easy answer, and I apologize if it comes across very vague because it's very different for every company. But what I will say is, and I said this to Sarah before, is that I don't necessarily think holidays is stressful or it's busy. It's just very fluid. So what I would encourage everybody is to think through as brand owners or owners of media is you need to take what publishers are saying, because that is the reality of it. And anybody can do this. You can go to Google Trends or any sort of trending data and you can find how these consumer trends really shape up. But it's about understanding what that means to you. Because just because the consumer is searching in early October does not mean it's right for your business, right? So just think through those things, plan out scenarios, look at objectives, and really kind of try and solve that for either some level of automation or media mix strategy, and that hopefully should help us sail through holiday.
Well, thank you. I want to leave a few minutes for questions. I think the last question I would have, and I think we've got some media planners, buyers, vendors in the room, is what are your expectations for a good partnership? What makes a good partnership for you, for your team?
Selfishly speaking, I think it's understanding the world through the customer's eyes or the brand's eyes, right? Again, it's not a slam against publishers, but a lot of ideas, and like I said before, 2 minutes ago, just because a consumer is doing something or a publisher is saying something or a partner is saying something, you still need to be owning the strategy and overall data and the customer and the product and the sales. So making sure that you have that clarity is going to be important. But once you have that clarity, allowing the partner to be knowledgeable about that clarity is going to be extremely important. Because you can't have a partnership that is veiled, right? Because if you have that lack of transparency, then you are going to be talking about it in two different perspectives. But at the end of the day, a strategy that a media partner or an agency puts out there is only as effective as the brand's overall strategy and what they want to accomplish. So what I would say is definitely ask brands about their priorities, what do they really want to go after, and help them be, or help be an advocate for them and kind of giving them a pros and cons of each approach. Rather than saying this is what you should do, maybe the approach is to solve this thing. Here are the 5 different approaches we can take. We recommend this based on what we see. And sometimes it aligns, sometimes it won't. But I think the biggest friction that happens is you're looking at it from 2 different vantage points. The other thing is, you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of the times you'll have partners come in and say, hey, why didn't this work? And why aren't you doing what I told you? And you're like, listen, in the heat of battle, you do what you can to kind of keep the momentum. Sometimes the best laid plans do fall off, and which is where you need to think about contingency planning and really disaster recovery scenarios. And that's the last thing I would say. Always plan for the ideal utopian state, but also think through what happens when things really go off the rails, right? And I was saying this to Sarah as well. It's like, you really start to see characters, shining the brightest in the darkest times. You just want to think through that very well.
Well, not to end on a negative note, but I will say the key to a successful partnership, at least with us, has always been anticipation and transparency. And that's where we've, I think, had some success. We have 2 minutes left. Anyone have 1 or 2 questions that they'd love to ask Karthik? And just FYI, he will be here. I will be here as well for the reception, and we'll take questions. But I'd love to take 1 or 2 now if you have any. Yeah.
Can you talk about how the growth of Agile technology has evolved your marketing strategy?
Could you clarify more? I'm sorry.
Just the increased adoption of Agile on a user-by-user basis.
To be honest, we haven't really measured that in a meaningful way. I obviously know that it's a big part of our demographic in certain cases, or consumer behavior, I should say. But given our demographic skews a lot older, in the 35 to 45, I don't know if it's as big of a factor. But the honest answer is that it's not something that I look at as a KPI at this point in time.
Anyone else? One more? Chris?
You mentioned word of mouth marketing. How are you influencing word of mouth or trying to control that conversation?
It's again going back to what I said. I think although it doesn't kind of fall directly into my wheelhouse, we do invest a lot in social media. My team does a lot of Pinterest advertisement as well. Really understanding that the customer needs a reason to engage with you, right? Allowing them to come across as, in their own way, an influencer, in their own way, a fashionista, in their own way, a trendsetter is very important. And you want to arm her with the right products, which we honestly believe we do, right? And so it's about giving her the exposure in many ways, rather than just saying, please come and buy. It's more about, forget about buying. Have you seen this? And which is why I think our stores are such in my humble opinion, the stores are such a big asset for us, because it allows for a significant level of interaction with the brand and the products and the services, and together they form a very exciting experience for our customers. So hopefully that will resonate well. One of the studies that I'd seen is that Macy's continues to be a brand that is well loved, thanks to a lot of the things we do in the community, including the parade and the fireworks and all that stuff. So it's, again, how do we take the brand from just being in the love category, but also allowing them to be brand ambassadors for us.
Great. I think we are. One more? Yep. Yep.
Organizationally, what are you guys doing to connect the digital marketing activities with the in-store digitization, if you will, kind of connect the dots between the two worlds?
So we feel proud to have a 360-degree view of a customer. So we have data points that come in. We have an end-to-end view of, again, with the data that we see from a credit card transaction, how do we tie that customer in? From measuring performance, especially on the search side of things, we partner with companies like LiveRamp that really allows us to kind of get at least a directional understanding of how well the ROI is shaping up. There are features or there are capabilities within publishers that allow you for store visits and things like that as well, and our store teams do a great job of tracking that traffic or lift in traffic as well. So it's still in its infancy, but we feel we have the right pieces in place for us to really kind of take the next step in there.
Well, a big thank you to Karthik, and we're going to pass it on to our next presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.